beings, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Sarah and I am the Woodland Witch. We have the Good Witch of the Northeast back today as we talk about our trip to Glen Hollow Farm. So we are in the Finger Lakes region of New York State. It's absolutely beautiful here.
Stunning.
Gorgeous.
Stunning. The mountains.
Yes. And we were invited to spend some time here and to connect with the land and just have, I don't even think I knew what to expect, really.
I was like, we're going to go take some really pretty pictures and maybe meditate outside.
Yeah, and it was so much more than that. Incredibly.
Core shaking.
Yes, 100%. So we got here on Saturday, early evening, I would say. And I, I was really nervous.
Yes.
I was like,
nervous at all until you said.
I know, because my intrusive thoughts are like, but honestly, coming into the house, there was so many reassuring aspects of it that just made us feel safe.
Coming around the mountain, coming down, I remember being like, if this is how we go out, this is a pretty view.
Yes, and when we came in, and there was deer when we came in, well, when we were going to the store, there was deer, and it was just so peaceful, and it really just, I don't know, you could feel a shift in the energy sphere. Like, you could just feel the change. Yeah. And so coming up to the house, it was really like, I think it was just overwhelming. Because I don't think we were expecting to feel the way that we did.
I'm like, I don't know, growing up where I don't grow up in mountains, so I don't know where to, I was like, there's so much prettiness everywhere.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah, just even like aesthetically looking at it was like breathtaking.
Breathtaking.
Yes, and then energetically you're feeling all these shifts and you're like, something's happening.
Something
is happening.
Afoot.
Magic is afoot. The more and more we explored the place, the more I think we just we realized that we were in for something big.
Walked in and shut the door and Sarah turned around and there's a horseshoe.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, okay.
There's a horseshoe right above the door, which obviously in folk magic, you know that an iron horseshoe above the door is thought to bring in good luck. It is thought to deflect any negative energy. So that was really reassuring. And when the owner finally came over and we got to connect with him and he told us about him and his lovely wife and the history of the property and how they came into acquiring it, which was super cool. She's a master manifestor.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Like, they were meant to be
here. And you can just tell how much really everyone in the town that we've connected with really takes pride in this land. They're respected.
In this land specifically, too.
They're respectful of the native tribes that were here. It's such a huge importance to them to just honor the treaties and the land, the way that it was cared for by those people, which I think is really awesome.
By planting like the stuff that's indigenous
here. Yeah, indigenous plants that are from this area.
Or stuff that would do well, that would help the plant life here. That's incredible. That's a level of restoration that
and that's what I was going to say too, is it's a lot of restorative work and preserving of the land, which honestly is amazing to see how much pride and honor and gratitude they feel just being able to reside here.
That's the perfect word for it. They're just so thankful to share this space and this magic and this land.
So this is the stone that bears the symbol of the Haudenosaunee. They are the original 5 nations of what many know as the Iroquois. And they, for us, we live here in the traditional lands of the Onondaga, which most people know as the Seneca, who were the keepers of the Western Door. And then this is, of course, important not only because of the region, but also because of the fact that we are in Native American Heritage Month.
Oh, yeah.
So also good for folks to know. Yeah. And on the back here are some of the sponsors who did these stones for Forest Therapy and also Look Down, Rise Up. So, we're very proud to recognize the folks who were the original inhabitants of this area and who still live here. Yes. They are not a past tense people.
So on the first day, we also really tried to get acclimated and connected to the space. Whenever we're traveling, I think that I never really want to like cleanse too much. Like I don't ever really feel drawn to doing that. It's always just about connecting, not necessarily like
I introduce myself to the house and I'm like, hey, I'm not going to mess with you. You don't mess with me. I have much respect for you.
And that's another thing that's really interesting. On the night that we got here and we met the owner, he called the house a character.
Yes.
As if it was a being, a living, breathing being. And that was such a good way to describe it, because coming up, you could feel that energy. And I don't think I've ever felt that in like a residential space before.
before that too, we were talking on Tuesday or Wednesday before our trip about bringing an offering for the house specifically.
Right.
And we don't talk like that very often.
No.
You know what I mean?
No, for sure.
And it was almost like we had a feeling that this was going to be very special.
Yes, absolutely. Like I said, we were invited here. I didn't know what to expect at all being here. But connecting with the owner and really just having this like mutual.
He has a lot of respect for like wellness as a whole, it seems like.
Yeah, but there was this mutual like connection of just like feeling drawn.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like there was something here and something that he felt we needed to experience here, which was really cool. It was just really empowering to feel so like connected and so understood.
They really seem to want to share this with so many different facets of people.
Yeah.
You know?
You can tell they feel really drawn to multitudes of people, and they feel like, and that brings us back to the pride aspect, is that they want to share this space because they believe it's something magical, and they want the world to see that, and they want to preserve that, which is just incredible. So on day 2, we kind of explored a little bit. That was like our exploring day. I feel like that's really the only day we went out aside from the forest bathing yesterday, which we'll talk about. I would say like all the towns are really small, so they're super close together. You can drive through 3 or 4 towns in, I don't know, a matter of 20 minutes.
Yeah. There was one town, the Cheshire town.
The Cheshire town was so cute, and it was probably, I could throw a rock to the other end of it. Like
so
from
cute.
one end to the other. And everything was teepeed, and I don't know if it was like a town
People
thing.
in Cheshire, are you guys okay? Was that a prank?
Was it a prank?
Are you guys
like,
leaning into
do we
the
need
name?
help cleaning
Right.
it up? Like,
We'll help you.
It just was like toilet paper everywhere.
And we were coming through at night at dusk, and we were already talking about being a little on edge. And I don't know.
I know, and I was like,
we
what?
rounded the corner, and I saw something white going boop boop boop, and I was like, what is that?
Right, already on edge, and you're like, a ghost.
A ghost. Don't ghost.
A ghost. So when we got into Naples yesterday, which is it's definitely a winery area as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like wine
Winery
tastings.
lounges.
We went to a restaurant in Naples called Roots.
The Roots Cafe.
The Roots Cafe, incredible, best burger I've ever had.
Ever. And what's unfortunate is this will now be my hyperfixation meal for the rest of my life.
I know, and we can't have it again.
I can't drive 5 hours
Right.
twice a week to get it.
It is unfortunate, but it was so good, and
so
it was such a
good.
quirky little spot, and there was
cat.
the cat Muskrat.
Who literally led you into the cafe.
Yes. Muskrat came right up to me, and I was just like, we were vibing.
He was the host. He was like,
Yeah.
table for 2, right this way.
Yes, and I was petting him, and it was so cute. The landscape of the area is just beautiful. So we're like I said, right in the Finger Lakes, right on the water. There's so many mountains, and the water is just
book borrows everywhere. Book borrows, like those little. Like,
the book houses where
book
like you
houses.
drop off
There's
the
so
books and
many.
exchange them. There is a lot.
So many around here, and like I come from a literary town, so like there's only a few where I live, and this is amazing.
That's where I live. People have them in their front yards everywhere. It is. That's exactly what I was thinking. It's just a little. It's not a little. It's such a big
space.
community.
Yes.
Yeah. It's
It feels
very. Yeah.
It feels like this.
After the Roots Cafe, we went to this local cemetery, and it was really felt really peaceful. Normally, when I go into cemeteries, you can feel a little bit of
I like
restlessness.
Yes.
And busy is the word that I would say.
It almost feels like spirits, especially because we tend to pick older cemeteries that people don't seem to visit. So it's almost like the energies are like, someone's here, someone that can listen.
Yeah, it felt like appreciative that we were there.
We cleaned
Almost
up some
like,
stones.
and just, we did clean up a little bit and pick up some trash and just kind of spend time there and connecting. And then there was this huge tree at the back that you could just feel
the oak tree.
Yeah, the oak tree, which was just incredible. It was awesome. Definitely, you couldn't read a lot of the stones, but it was awesome. And we left our offerings and we spent some time there, and it was really great. And obviously, I don't like to film really in cemeteries or graveyards or anything like that. That's just not me.
Cemeteries I go in and I know I can feel a specific agenda, and with this it felt like they were like, we're cool.
Yeah,
For
sure.
Like
it felt very
grateful.
Just like
my goodness.
like gratitude. It was just
grateful.
like, oh, hello, like welcome. When we got back, we kind of just relaxed a little bit. We do have a hot tub and a sauna, and we just kind of used that as time to rest and rejuvenate.
I mean, I kept joking, but it's like that was like a cauldron. So it was 2 witches chilling in a cauldron,
chilling, bubbling and brewing.
Bubbling and brewing.
So that evening, we actually connected with the owners again, and they invited us to take a tour of the main house because we are just in the guest house at this time. But there's a whole main house that they that is attached. It's connected, and they rent that out in the summertime, but they do reside here most of the year. Gorgeous.
You walk in and there's a giant garden.
It's like an atrium, almost like a conservatory when you walk in.
And I could feel your little herbalist heart was like,
Not me skipping through the...
When we first got here, I got to watch Sarah in her element literally flit like a fairy from the Solomon seal. Look at the sage. Look at the cat. It was the cutest thing, and she was just able to identify them. Most of them with just her eye, and so it's like that's a lot of knowledge up here. And also, it was adorable. It was adorable. I'm like, look at the rocks. Oh, a tree. Sarah's like identifying stuff that can give us life and nutrients, and like she's like, oh, chew up this plantain.
Oh my God,
a natural.
I was like, eat this.
I was like, okay.
When we connected with the owners, he was very open to getting a reading done by Rachel, who is the reader, not just a reader, she's the reader. It's something you're amazing at. I just don't think I'll ever read tarot like you.
Oh, sorry.
No, I just like, it's amazing. Get a reading.
I just tend to throw them out to people too, you know, because I tend to give readings that like, I can feel, not like I can feel help people, but like, especially like, he feels so amazing and he's given so much to someone that you could just feel that was like, he needs some encouragement. He needs, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It was a really, totally.
Super intuitive.
And that like we were saying, he was so receptive and open to like understanding what we do, and like even dabbled in a few things himself. Yeah. He's very connected in a deep way, especially to this land and the energy of this home. It's just, it's amazing to see.
Gentle person who just is grateful to share their knowledge of the land and their space and their time.
Pride. Back to the pride.
It's amazing.
So proud to, and gracious, like grateful to be here, you know, and to reside here. I'll be honest, there are times where people ask me about what I do, and I'm almost hesitant to say something, and you can tell when they look at you, they're like, oh, okay. It was just such like, wow, that's really cool. Like just really very receptive, and it made us feel very welcome and comfortable.
Even more than we already did.
Yeah.
When we were giving him the reading, he didn't tell us anything, and then when we were able to start like unpacking, and then you were able to start confirming, I feel like he really saw the magic that is literally living mundanely, because like we didn't do anything amazing crafty spells around him, but we were able to get these messages and these downloads and these connections,
these things he really needed,
and
had been trying to figure out in here.
It's the craziest thing, because Sarah and I have a connection. Can we talk about that real quick?
Our friendship is pretty wild, I think, in the way that we became friends. I remember her video chatting me one day, and I was like, this random girl is, I literally messaged her, was like, I like your vibe, we're gonna be friends, I'm gonna sell your products in my store, and we're gonna be friends forever. Yeah, that was my first interaction with her.
Hi, by the way, hi, I'm Rachel. Nice to meet you.
And I was like, who is this woman? But
fast forward, and then I gave you a reading when I first started, because I wanted to start reaching out.
Yes, and and there were things that you knew, and
I was like, let's be friends.
And names and things that you said where I was like,
I'll never forget the name. The name thing was
thing was huge, and I was like, excuse me? There was a connection with our friendship that was like...
We had a dream once that was the same.
We did have a dream.
So like one day I called her, I said, dude, I had a dream last night. You were walking out of an old motel with your husband and your daughter, and there was a beautiful purple Ferris wheel behind you. You immediately messaged me back and said, shut up. I had a dream of you and your husband walking out with your daughter and a beautiful purple Ferris wheel behind you.
We'll insert a clip of us unpacking that a little bit.
You had the color of the Ferris wheel. I didn't say what color it was.
I know. And that's the kind of stuff that makes you like, there's just no going back.
That's why we're either both having a psychic break at the same exact time. The same exact symptoms. I don't want to keep talking down that road. No, I'm afraid it's going to be. You know? And like when we start talking about it in front of him, because we were talking about how we just met in person not even a year ago. You know, not even a year.
We were living pretty far apart. And then when I moved up to New England, we're only an hour and a half apart.
Hour 23, hour apart.
And Salem, Massachusetts is the half point between our house. Mm-hmm. It's 1 hour and 23 minutes for both of us to get there, which is amazing.
Yeah, so when we were talking about it with him, you could tell he was like, I'm so grateful to be here with you guys here and like share, because we were saying how this has been really great for our friendship to like explore things together and like
because I think both of us are pretty solitary in our craft. And this was the first time getting to experience magic and the craft with another person,
to build a ritual with another human. Amazing.
It was really cool. While we were over there giving the owner a reading, we ended up getting a tour of the main house, which was just amazing. They did such a good job of trying to preserve and protect the natural elements of the house, while doing updates and things that they probably had to do for safety reasons and just for modernization a little bit, but they were very right above us.
Yeah, right? Oh my God, directly above me.
Directly above us, there is a bird's nest in the ceiling that has been there since this entire guest house was a horse barn. The original barn doors are up there, which I did film a little bit, and we will show that.
So beautiful.
And it's really cool because especially in the main house, like the floors, the fireplace, everything's
the
very
fireplace.
And the scene from Bilbo's, Rachel's never seen Lord of the Rings.
None of them.
It's our only flaw. We're gonna fix that. This beautiful picture of Bilbo's.
It was a painting. It was beautiful. It really was
a
beautiful.
painting,
I was
but
like, oh, that's really pretty.
Yeah,
And then
it
you
was
guys
in front of
nerded out.
Bilbo's fireplace.
You guys
and it was
nerded out
awesome.
there for a little
we
while,
did nerd
and
out.
then mocked me for never seeing it.
We 100%, yeah. It was really cool on the tour. We got to see this bookcase of things that they had found on the property. Everything from old latches and doorknobs to pottery they found on the property and things like that. Was really, really cool. And there's things I think that tied into like
squash.
He spoke about a lot of folklore of the land.
And so she's a mysterious woman in dark clothing who appears at the top of the glens and then sings a mournful song, and not always known whether she is a woman of European or native ancestry. It's very ambiguous when she's seen, but then she's seen, then she goes away and doesn't come back again for a long time.
When he was speaking about all this stuff, we noticed those synchronicities and those things showing up for us personally on the day-to-day, even when we weren't, spending time there, to hear some of the folklore and the stories that they associate with this area and the land and the people who resided here.
Chardonnay storyteller, telling the story of Bear Hill, which is a Native American settlement. This is the birthplace of the Seneca.
You can tell the way they speak too. They speak with such honor and dignity about the indigenous people who lived here. They're like the pride they take in saying the names correctly, because that's so important. Well, you can hear the honor that they took in taking the time to
and
learn.
it's like it's almost like they feel like they're the messengers. They are the ones who are here to protect it, and they are guarding it, and they are taking care of it for those that came before them. So day 3 was really nature-based for us. I think we spent 90% of the time outside that day.
Yeah, absolutely, we did actually.
We started the day just doing tarot outside, and which was really cool because I think our readings were like,
notice that
we're very
tied
into the experience that we had with the forest bathing and the forest therapy that we did. So we went hiking in the back of the house, and there's like a little fox crossing sign, which foxes have been huge in my craft, in my practice. The weather vane on top is a fox. The wallpaper is foxes, and they have a small fox that comes and visits them that they would just feed sausages to. When I was pregnant, I did a Reiki session. I think I talked about this in my
you did.
My tools video that I did. When I was doing the Reiki session, they had said that they had this clear vision. They had said they saw me and my daughter in a forest surrounded by foxes. And foxes have really shown up for my practice, and just that energy.
It's just so funny that we came to a place that was so immersed in something so big to you personally.
Yeah, and I think that was a big theme for the entire trip, of just things like consistent support and showing up from spirit. So when we went hiking in the back of the house, we just decided to do some meditating. You can see all of the water from the, and that's another thing that's really cool, is the house is almost built into the earth. So it's like this grounding energy of just like, it just feels so connected.
It really is
to
a
nature.
shire.
It is literally a hobbit hole. It's amazing. A little bigger than a hobbit hole probably, but the fact, seeing it built into this like huge ravine is amazing. It does.
It encourages elevensies.
And second breakfast.
See, I do know some things.
And afternoon tea.
It's like when you go out to the back, we're literally sandwiched between 2 mountains, and there's 2 ridges on either side, and you just sit in this basin, and it's just so amazing.
So when we got up to the top, we decided to sit and meditate. You were over by a tree. Yeah, she was over by a tree.
In the sun.
And she was in the sun, and I was on a bench, and I was just facing outward towards the house down here. You could see the house from the bottom. And I had my eyes closed, and I was praying to Sir Nanos. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go up further. We have to watch this. And so I get up off of the bench, and I turn around, and
it was right away too.
It was. And I just think I went, and I was just staring a stag in the face. Literally just stare, and it was just like looking at me. Yeah. Rachel decided to record the entire reaction.
I'm so glad
which we will play for you here as we react in real time.
You recording it.
Demonetized.
See him.
I know. That's why I'm not looking. It's not for me.
That's not for me.
That
I
was
love
not
you.
for me.
I'm recording you because this is big.
I could feel you
That's
connect
okay.
with it. I think that's what it was.
Not be like, we need to go up there. It's right there. I know. I'm literally crying right now. Sarah, it was when you were sitting there. It was in your line.
It was. You can see your bench right there.
Yeah, I was sitting right there. So that was an amazing moment.
That was incredible.
Then we walked up further just to see if we could see them, and we did. We ended up seeing 2 stags and like a baby.
And two doe. So
Two
yeah,
doe. So it was like
5.
2 family. Yeah, there were 5. It was amazing. It was really cool. Yeah. We separated a little bit. I went to like the front of the peak where you could see all the water. And then Rachel comes over to me. She's like, go sit by that tree. And I was
You
like,
go there.
okay. Yeah, when you're experiencing something and you're like, go do this.
Yeah,
I'm like, I don't question it.
She
Because
doesn't.
I don't.
You're
Because
the
you.
first person who's like, you're just like, okay.
I'm like, okay. So I go and I sit under the tree and I just, start feeling the warmth of the sun, and I just find a jawbone.
And mind you, I had been by that tree for 10, 15 minutes
Yeah.
beforehand.
And there's just a jawbone
Yep.
right next to me, and that was awesome because I never
A
find.
fully full, it was with a tooth in it and everything.
Yeah, a tooth. I never find bones out
I
in the
never
wild
find.
ever.
I find
Except for that one I found. Well, not since I lived in North Carolina. I found that
which you're pretty sure is a what?
it's a fox skull,
Yeah.
according to the people I've showed it to online who do that stuff for a living. But another really cool thing, because I feel like the themes of this trip have very much been like healing, going with the flow, restorative, trust,
Letting go with grace.
letting go with grace, and just like
For me too, like balance and duality.
balance. Yes, exactly. And it was really funny because as we were walking up to that peak yesterday, we noticed these berries that were growing, and I have the app picture this. I've talked about it. It identifies plants, trees, fungi in your area, and it will tell you the symbolism.
It's really cool.
And so I can't remember what the berries were called, but they symbolize healing, release,
Restoration,
rejuvenation, and letting go of the past is what it was. And I was like, wow, because that was like, we've done so much unpacking emotionally here.
I think too, when you and I met in our lives, we had been through separately so much that we need, you know what I mean? Like this was so good to like let go in such a nurture way.
And to exhaust like all thoughts about it, all opinions, all perceptions, to be able to go through all of that. And
I really watched you change here. Actually, we were in the sauna at one point, and I
oh my god,
she experienced something, and normally Sarah would have responded very differently.
Yeah,
and you literally went.
Yeah, there was definitely something that shifted in me here. So another thing we did on day 3 was we got connected with Shimmering Light Farm.
My Lanta.
Insane. She specializes in forest therapy and forest bathing. Which I didn't even know.
When he just offered this to us on a whim, off the cuff.
Yeah, he was like, I think you're really going to benefit from this. Like an apothecary garden as well. So she grows like 200 some odd medicinal plants. Which, fantastic, yeah. And has like a full-blown apothecary, and they do workshops, and she's so involved in the community.
When this person came into where the farm is, it was a plowed horse pasture.
Yeah, it was a plowed horse pasture, and they felt so called to just leave it how it is and let it grow as it naturally grows. And 23 years later, there is this amazing functioning, like...
They have stuff growing there that it was supposed to be extinct.
That is now growing. And like fauna that has come in, and animal life that has, just with the natural flow of how things were supposed to be.
The moth story was really
neat. If you don't know, those moths kill trees, and
we got ravaged in Massachusetts by it that year.
Yeah, this woman allowed, I can't remember what the bird was.
Something yellow, something, I don't remember.
Some sort of bird that came in and was eating all their moths, so their specific area did not get ravaged by those moths.
And there wasn't she didn't have to do any pesticides. She didn't have to do anything.
Right, because she
turned it
created
over to the universe
and to nature, and it took care of itself. And that was just really cool.
Wow, yeah.
It was interesting because when we first connected with her and we got to this forest therapy experience, the first thing we did was we went into this, it was a little bit of a clearing, but it was also surrounded by like 3 or 4 really big tall trees.
Tall trees, yeah.
And it was really awesome because, as you mentioned earlier, she was like, if you don't feel comfortable closing your eyes, I understand, but I am here and I will be watching for you.
Holding sacred space.
Holding sacred space for you is exactly what she said. She had us hone in on our senses and kind of separate them as they are. And the expansion of sound, the levels of sound moment was
having
really
us
cool.
cast our ears.
Casting our ears to different levels of sound. I think that's going to help with meditating and anything in general, just because when you separate your sounds like that, you can hear the distance between them, which ones are most prevalent, which ones are the most far away. And it really just like gives you this sense of being in the present moment and being
also
grounded.
Safety too.
And safety, absolutely.
You know, you're not perceiving something as a threat. You can tell what it is.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. It was very open about, we're going to talk about our experiences and what we feel and what happens for us with no judgment. There's not going to be adding on to that experience.
But we all did.
We did, but it was also very much about giving space to hear your voice and to what you experience and acknowledging what you experience.
And what the nature wanted to share with us.
And what the land in this area wanted to share with us, which was really cool. As we walked on the second excursion, I guess you would call it.
Yeah, she kept calling it invitations.
The invitations, yes. As we did the second invitation, it was all about noticing how we are in this season of fall moving into winter and how nature is naturally just letting go and it's releasing, and how is that showing up for each of the plants and the ground and the trees and the things around us. And I remember feeling really drawn to these pine trees, watching all of this life prepare for a sleep. I kept thinking dying, but it's not dying. Right. It's preparing for rest.
Rest, hibernation.
Yes. And you can see all of these large pine trees that are just taking a little bit longer to release. I sort of felt such a protective element from that, and I was feeling really drawn to just being underneath them and feeling this like encapsulating, comfy. Third invitation, we separated at this point, and we went and followed our intuition wherever it guided us into this area, and chose one object of nature that we felt most drawn to and connected with. And once again, I chose a pine tree. Yeah. And I separated, and I remember there being this little path, and I sat around it, and there were all these little, small, like, just twigs of trees, and it almost looked like an army that was looking up to this big pine. And when I sat directly under it, and I'm looking up, and I see this solid trunk with a bunch of branches coming off of it, and they're all different sizes and different shapes, and they extend at different lengths. And when the wind would blow through, because it was very windy, and I'm really grateful that it was, because that was really cool.
But it wasn't cold.
It wasn't cold.
And I was not dressed appropriately.
But it added something to the senses that was really awesome.
100%. Something crisp, but beautiful.
Looking at this pine and seeing the wind come by, and at the very edge of the branches, you see these leaves and these pine needles just like rustling and shaking, and things are so crazy. And then you just look up and you see this grounded, secure trunk that is holding everything else together. And I remember thinking about, no matter how crazy things were out there, the root and the center of this tree was always safe, and it was always protected and secure. And it reminded me of myself that like peace is found within, that security, that stability is found at the center. And while things may be going nuts around you or be chaotic and uncomfortable, the root of you is where that peace and that protection and that safety really lies.
The coolest thing I liked about her the most is she invited us to separate and then share our own experiences. And as like, for me, people pleasing, like the hardest part of my journey has been like individually, what is for me. And that's hard to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think on me leaning into being, I'm just gonna say the word psychic, is really been so beneficial. Like that's when I noticed that like a lot of my experiences yesterday was about duality.
Yeah, and I think you're like a big conduit for things like that.
I was just like, I need to turn around. Okay, I'm turning around, you know?
Yeah, but like I think that you are a conduit for a lot of things to come through.
Thank you.
And that's where the discernment comes in of like, what's for me, what's not,
Yes.
what is just
That's
existing around me.
Yeah,
you
and
know what I mean?
I think that's why was so beneficial yesterday. We had to sit like 10 minutes, and then 25 minutes. And again, personally, that was so good for me because I've had to do like immersions into the woods to feel safe. And like I felt so amazing. And then just to get the downloads that we did, and like I just sat in the sun and I just looked at the trees and I thought just how beautiful they are and how they are masculine energies, but they're so feminine and nurturing.
Yeah.
And they give nonstop.
Absolutely.
You know, and I feel like as energy workers and as witches, that's what we do. We are strong, we are empowering, we are nurturing.
I think it was really cool that like this trip in particular was just consistently giving.
Oh my gosh, 100%.
In so many ways. And it was just, oh my gosh, yeah.
This was absolutely Sarah's trip for like your spirituality, gift for your universe.
I appreciate that.
And like I got a lot out of this, but you have to know and what you did in the forest first.
With the squash.
Yes. Yeah, it was
around Mabon.
Because it was my anniversary. Yeah.
Yeah, it was Mabon. I went into the woods, and I've talked about Sernanos in my practice on and off. I think I've touched on, you know, how I honor him and things like that. I felt called at Mabon to leave a squash in the forest at the base of an oak tree. And I said,
this guy thinks I'm crazy.
And a guy walked by. Yeah, that was traumatic. We're tweeting, and I was like, to the guy who just saw me leaving a squash at the base of a tree for Sernanos, no, you didn't.
No, you didn't.
I remember doing that, and like, things at home have been a little wild.
Wonky.
Not even in a bad way. Wonky. We were trying to purchase a home, and just a lot of
Your
things.
business is growing.
Things are shifting really quickly and rapidly, and things that aren't for me are just like, bye, this isn't for you.
Yeeted.
Yeah, and so I was just like sitting here, and I'm like, what?
You were like, something has to give.
I literally said, I was like, something has to give.
And I remember messaging you the next day and being like, I kept hearing the song Hold On by Wilson Phillips, and it was like, hold on for one more day. And I feel like you did hold on.
Yeah. And this trip was just very much needed, and I'm so grateful to have been asked to spend time here to reside in this space. And I said that at the forest bathing yesterday. It was just like I feel privileged to be able to share this space and this energy with the beings that are here, human and non-human. It's very inspiring too to be able to, and I felt challenged in a way to get that connected with the land that I spend time on. It's just an incredible trip overall. We could probably, I'm sure we're going to continue to unpack experiences and things that happened while we were here. Absolutely. But I mean, if you have the opportunity to come to Glen Hollow, honestly, it's very...
It's worth the drive. I'm sure there's airports around. Like, it is worth.
Yeah, it's a very
powder, teleporting,
powder.
Any way you can get here. When we started talking about how this house, the way it felt, he was like, "Yes, you get it."
I just love that he gave it a character, and he described that, you know, across the street is the lake view, and a lot of these homes. This is the last home to exist that looks like this in this area. Yeah, he describes it as the Shire, and over there is Mordor.
The craziest thing about this place too. It feels so expansive, and time feels
as though it slowed incredibly, like here.
Incredibly, because we both have young ones at home, so our days are constantly like.
It felt weird to be able to be so present.
Do everything we wanted.
And to do everything that we wanted.
That was the other thing too. So we're two witches, so we planned for weeks coming away. We were going to do all these rituals together, and we were going to do all these things.
And we didn't do one of those things.
No, but
it was almost like the land and the experience and the people here were like, we are here to give you a message and to show you something.
Yep.
And we had all these, you know, that natural need to control and to be like, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to accomplish this. Yeah.
That we're worthy of being here, that we're showing up, that we're doing this.
Yeah. And that was really cool to experience.
It was really cool.
To be like, okay, like coming through the gates, it's just like, we're showing you this. And it was like, we did not feel, even with it being like a full moon and an eclipse and all these things we had planned, it was just like, I am just going to receive whatever and rest and receive whatever messages this place has to tell me.
I feel like there's going to be, like you said, it's going to be months of like
unpacking,
aha moments.
100%. All right, everyone, that was our trip to Glen Hollow Farm. It was transformative. It was rejuvenating. It was so incredible. And I can't express enough gratitude.
So badly.
This will not be our last time here.
No.
And if you have the opportunity to experience it, I would definitely recommend taking that chance. And to just be so immersed in nature, to experience it this presently and this safely was just amazing. It was an amazing trip.
It's like nature gives us and invites us to have a soft space to rest.
Absolutely. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for being here, and we will see you in the next one.